Welcome to the Conscious Publicist Podcast, a space where thoughts become ideas to advocate for a more conscious human experience in the media. Our thoughts and ideas inspire action, and the most notable leaders and organizations have transformed thoughts and ideas into global initiatives that have impacted the lives of millions. My name is Ashley Graham, and as a woman-owned business founder and publicist, I guide leaders, visionaries, and creators in discovering their conscious media voice and methodologies that inspire connection, community, and impact through aligned media channels. In this podcast, we'll dive into public relations, thought leadership, business, and entrepreneurship, all through the lens of being a conscious human being. I'll take you behind the scenes into the habits, thoughts, and modalities that have helped leaders shift past paradigms of limiting beliefs, comparison, and self-doubt to show up for themselves to become the subject matter experts they were called to be. Subscribe to the show on Apple or Spotify and join us on this journey of awakening the conscious, enlightened leader within you. Have you ever witnessed someone so deeply immersed in their craft that you could feel the energy radiating from them? That moment when artistry becomes meditation and when creation becomes presence? That's exactly what stopped me in my tracks when I first encountered today's guest, Allie Hall. I recently came across a video of her painting on the beach next to the pier, completely zoned in, channeling her art in this profoundly physical and spiritual way. The scene was hypnotic, and even through a screen, I could feel the frequency of her creative expression. In this episode, Allie takes us into the sacred space where creativity lives, not just for artists, but for all of us. She shares her journey from stopping painting for over 10 years to rediscovering it in 2020 after encouragement from her therapist, and how those initial 10 minutes a day transformed into a thriving artistic practice featuring ethereal ocean and sunset scenes that have captivated collectors and galleries alike. We explore the rituals that help Allie access flow states, the feeling of floating in water when she's painting barefoot in her studio, and how creativity serves as a portal to presence and reconnection with ourselves. Allie's story is proof that our creative gifts don't disappear, they simply wait for us to reclaim them. Whether you're an artist seeking inspiration, an entrepreneur looking to tap into your creative expression, or someone who's put their passion on pause, this conversation is your invitation to return what makes you feel alive. Let's dive in. Today's guest is a special one. I came across a recent interview that she did that was published on social media. There was such an ethereal shot of her where she was on the beach next to the pier painting. Painting is her artistry, painting is her craft. And I could just feel how hypnotic it was for her. She was zoned in, really channeling her art in this physical way. And from the audience perspective, me watching this happen, I just felt the energy, the frequency, the vibration of that artistry. So, introducing my guest today, Allie Hall. Allie, welcome to the Conscious Publicist Podcast. I can't wait for you to share your magic and how you tap into art as your creative expression. To ask you the million-dollar question, what story and message are you looking to tell through the brilliance and the wisdom of your artistry today?
Thank you, Ashley, for having me a part of the show. I'm really excited to be here and to share my story. And for me, the story that I want to share is about how to tap into your creativity, and that creativity isn't something that's just reserved for artists. It's something that we can all tap into and have as everyday moments in our life to reconnect with ourselves. And I love the way that you described what you saw, because to me, that's pure creative flow, but that's also what I call present state. So being present with yourself and being grounded in your body. And that's the beauty of creative expression. It's when we get to really reconnect with ourselves. And I can't wait to dive in and talk more about this too.
You set me up perfectly to talk about what we were briefly diving in on before I hit record. But you had expressed it as you get into this almost like this place of centered gravity where you are so tunneled in on what it is that you're doing. Your nervous system is regulated in that moment. Your mind, body, soul, everything is channeling what you're working on to the point where you can't even hear anything on the background, right? Your husband comes in the office, doesn't even get your attention. You're so focused. What does that feel like for you? And how are you able to really tap into that for your creative expression when it comes to what it is that you're painting or the piece that you're painting?
Yeah, I would say the best way I would describe that feeling for me is almost as if you're floating in water. There's a similar stillness if you've ever done like a float tank or even in the ocean or in a pool, that moment of being in your body and kind of letting wherever it takes you and pulls you, that's how it feels for me. There's this energy where I'm not living in my brain where my mind is going a million miles a minute, listening to all my thoughts. Instead, I'm more in my heart and more in my feels, which is hard for me to do. And so it's allowing me to express by painting whatever is coming up for me and release that in the moment when I'm painting a beautiful sunset. It's such a euphoric moment and it's really hard to get there, but ways that I get there can start by grounding. So even before I start painting in the studio, I have my little routine. I like to play music, it can be any genre. I usually will paint barefoot and usually at night. It depends though. So in that kind of moment of lighting a candle, setting that routine of what can I do to help myself feel more connected with myself before I really get into painting, those are some of the steps that I take. And so, music or smelling Palo Santo or candle, feeling my feet on the ground, those are my favorite tactics that help me get into that place. And if I'm still in my head, then whatever I'm about to paint, I find a different canvas and just doodle. Whatever colors come up for me, get out of that perfection state so that when I am flowing, I'm not overthinking, but I'm listening to where my heart is going and what I'm seeing versus what my head is saying. So those are some of my little rhythms that I do.
I love those very intentional rituals that you follow in order to tap into that frequency. You had talked about the feeling of being in water, like you're floating. I have always wanted to do one of those deprivation tanks because I've heard like amazing things as far as what you experience from that very euphoric feeling. But I know that you can get that feeling in water as well, whether it be the pool, if you like to take baths, or in the ocean. I'm curious though, looking at your art, or at least what I've been able to see firsthand in person as well as online, it's very water focused. It's very expressive with beach landscapes. And you even have a piece behind you right now that is very focused on the water. Would you say that focused center is what inspires more of your ocean pieces, or that being one of the main centers of focus for your art?
I would say that for sure. It's definitely a through line for my art. And what I love about water is no matter what scene you're painting, it's always a new type of expression. Water is so diverse and so dynamic with what you see in the depth of it, or the color of it, or the way the waves move and crash in. And so being able to capture that in a layered state with my technique, it's a lot of layering, a lot of softness. And I like to describe my pieces as if when I'm painting, I squint, and that's what you see from a distance. So it plays with a dreamlike state and also realism of what you're seeing, almost being memory and realistic at the same time.
That's amazing. One of the things that's coming through for me right now is what inspired you to get into painting as an art form? Because I can speak from my own personal experience of the type of art that I was inspired to get into, but I'm curious what inspired painting for you and if there's any other type of artistry that you also have explored to lead you into focusing just solely on painting.
Yes, I love this question because painting was something I started, especially with acrylics, at the age of 9. And I was first introduced to acrylic painting, which is what I love and prefer to paint with to this day, by a local art teacher in my hometown named Mrs. G. And her influence and learning how to use that kind of medium, which is acrylic paint, continued to be my preference over time because it's so tactile, it's forgiving, you can layer on it, you can be a little bit more playful with that medium. And I started taking creative classes as early as the age of 3. My mom had noticed I was coloring really neatly in lines and coloring books, and she actually introduced me to a different lady who taught me how to draw greeting cards. So the first type of medium I used was actually marker and pen and pencil. And I still have some of these greeting card drawings to this day, and it's fun to look back at even at an early start and how it continues to progress for me as an artist. I think you're always changing your journey as an artist and continuing to master your craft. I would dabble in everything. So once that started, my mom and my dad actually both influenced and supported that artistic journey. I never really knew if I was going to continue to go into art. It was one where I liked art a lot and I loved science, and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, but having the ability to dabble and try things and be okay with the art of trying something new is a huge gift that I realized later as an adult, that I'm glad I was introduced to that. So charcoal, I would say, was another favorite medium of mine. I often did portraiture of people, and then still life drawing. I think that's just such a beautiful art form in itself, where you're in this like hour-long session and you can quickly capture the essence of figurative. So I think it's a mix of figurative, abstract have always been some of my other loves when it comes to content and the type of things that I enjoy too. But I would say the last type of medium, which was really fun to play with, is actually alcohol ink. And it's pure pigment mixed with isopropyl alcohol, which evaporates on the paper. So it's a fun, sporadic, and spontaneous medium where when you place it on this paper called Yupo paper, it almost dries instantly and you can add different texture tones to it. So I started playing with that actually back in 2020 when I was getting back into painting, because one thing that people don't really know is that I stopped painting for over 10 years. I went more into design and I focused more on that design path, which is so different than just pure artistry.
For taking that long of a break from painting. And again, I feel like I'm asking you a lot of questions of what inspired you to get back into it because I feel that it's always inspiration that leads us into something, right? So, going back from such a 10-year hiatus, was there one thing that inspired you to get back into painting in 2020?
Yes, it's hard to choose one thing, but part of it for me was encouragement from my therapist, of all people. She and I had always talked about my art and things that I enjoy doing, and I would just want to talk about spending time, but I actually was adverse to the value of spending 10 minutes a day to make something. I didn't think it was worth time, which is funny coming from a creative person. And so the challenge that she had for me is, why don't you just take 10 minutes a day or 10 minutes a week and try again? Like, when was the last time you actually played with medium? It sounded like this is something you used to love to do. And I was like, yeah, I'll try it. And I wasn't sure, I was skeptical. And then I was like, wow, I really love it. And it was so life changing for me again, because I think I got so lost in only focusing on design or only focusing on the day to day of our lives. And we're so busy that it helped me reconnect with myself. And that's why I think there's such a beauty in creativity, and that it's more of being present with yourself. And that's the value of it. That's the beauty of it, where it just is such a gift to be able to do that. Even if it's 5 or 10 minutes, I now am convinced, and I live that every day as much as I can. And it doesn't have to be through painting, but that was like a life changing moment for me. And part of the reason why she and I had even talked about it is because I had gone through a few surgeries around that time. And so I was in a place where I couldn't be as mobile. There was a lot coming up for me. And like, how do you take a form of expression out in the way that you might need to, where you can't with usual exercise or other forms of creativity? So it was helpful to rediscover that and really embrace it again as an outlet and really continue to be an artist. And that's like through and through in my core that I love to do. And I feel so alive when I do it too.
That is such an incredible story. I'll only touch on this briefly, but you immediately started making me think about the message that I put into the trailer for the show. I've had such a dynamic range of different people from different industries, different phases of their lives. I've even talked about my ever evolving phases in my life and how that connects to thought leadership and business because we are us through and through, regardless of the seasons, the roles, the identities, it's still us. But I had talked about this line in the trailer that I still feel holds so much truth regardless of the guest. I say that our ideas and our thoughts inspire action. And the most notable leaders are the ones who have been able to get to this place in time. There's either a thought or something that someone else recognizes in us that all of a sudden unlocks this whole new avenue for us. And then the universe puts stones in the path to make it all happen. That's immediately what I was taken back to when you said that your therapist was the one that inspired that in you because she saw the artist lens in you through the conversations that you were having. And I think that is incredible because now being introduced to you in a different season, 5 years down the road, I've been able to see you bring your art to live events. I've seen your art on postcards. I wrote a dedication to my daughter on one of those postcards, and now you are getting these PR features and you're on the podcast. That is such an incredible story because it's like, wow, you can go from one season to another in such a short amount of time. 5 years may seem long, but it's not, realistically speaking, or relatively speaking. That's amazing.
Thank you.
So that anchor leads me into what I want to ask you next. How has that evolution been like for you? How have you taken this art as a means of expression and turned it into a business to where you are now having all of these incredible experiences doing what it is that you love?
Oh, I love that. I think at its core for me, it's consistency and showing up even when it feels like small steps. So it goes back to what you were touching on, where when I started this path of creating 10 minutes a day, whatever it was, I didn't know where that would lead me. I wanted to make something, but I didn't know what I wanted my body of work to be. And so that first year of dabbling really created this flow of experimentation. And then the experimentation led to goal setting for me, where I was like, oh, I really like this. I could create this really fun series. I want to call it affirmation. So that's where I started. And it was like all of this abstract work. And then I decided to apply and learn how to put it into a booth setup. So actually going to outdoor events for the first time and meeting people and learning how they connected with my art. And that continued to transpire to wanting to continue to paint larger scale and see if there is a consistent body of work that I could see myself defining as my own style. And so I'd always been drawn to water and the ocean. And whenever I look at things or go to certain places, it's always somewhere on the California coast for me. And so I had given myself a goal of painting 10 pieces of California's coastline based off photos I've taken and just see where that took me. And that I think was a huge unlock. It was that focus and just seeing, and I was like, wow, I don't know how I painted this. Okay, I'm gonna go do another one. And then kept going and kept going. And I don't know, every single time I did that, I really enjoy doing this. This is what I want to keep doing. And I didn't know that even just one painting this year alone could change my life and change my trajectory in another way, where it led to these events. Because as soon as I had this now like body of work of 10 pieces, then I was able to share them online. That was my next step this year. I really wanted to build my brand, meet more people, connect with other artist community. I think community is so important. And no matter what you do, whether you're an entrepreneur or just in your life, having people who can support your dreams and things that you're feeling inspired by will always help you continue to learn and grow. And this has just been probably the most transformational year for me as an artist in the best way. And I feel so grateful for that too.
I love how you just talked about community because that's, like you said, community is everything. I mean, that's how we got connected. You meet incredible people when you are in community with others. And I can only imagine that being in your space, being around people and having incredible conversations like the one that we're having today, who's to say that will not inspire your next series? And then whatever you gain from that, it puts you now into a whole other different audience base of people who are going to connect with that art through your own lived experience and how you're bringing that on the canvas.
Yes, and this year, meeting people and people who connect with my art at this scale now, looking back, from where I started 5 years ago, it's incredible. I had a moment actually in my Reno Tahoe show that I did where the lady who had purchased my work, somehow I share the same birthday as her grandma, and she just knew it was meant to be, and she just loved my piece so much. She started tearing up, and you hear how people connect with you and they find the work so healing. And that's my why. That's why I love to create. I love to create to help people feel connected to their space with the things that they want to surround themselves by. And for me, that's peace, calmness, body of water, like your happy place. And it's just such a giving moment when you have that moment. And I wish I could bottle it up because it's the best feeling in the world.
Well, going back to what you had mentioned, how you started with affirmations, I feel, especially hearing how this person who bought your art or really connected with it, who's to say that she didn't feel some type of energy that you had put into the work that resembled that personality without even knowing that you shared the same birthday? I feel those are those miraculous conversations or miraculous experiences that you wouldn't be able to have otherwise. And you didn't know that you were going to have that when you created that piece, but you showed up, you brought this feeling to the work, and then that attracted the person who really needed it. So you're creating intention into the pieces and it's meant to go to who it's meant to go to.
Yes, I love that. It's such a serendipitous moment too and feeling, and it's so powerful in that way. And as artists, that's also our role is it's a part of your soul on the canvas. And when you are near a body of work that's original, especially not just something you find in larger stores, I do believe you can feel that energy and you can feel that uniqueness that artist is trying to convey. And that's the beauty of art healing the world too.
So much truth in that. I'm curious, where are you taking your art next? I always like to ask my guests what's coming up because I feel from the audience listener perspective, I want to give the exclusives. I'm always like, how can I bring the exclusives to the conversation?
I
What is something that our listeners could hear first from you on what is coming?
You're the first to know that I recently applied to the LA Art Show, and that's happening January 7th through 11th next year. So that will be my first show of the year and of the 2026 year. And I'm really excited. It's one of the largest LA Art Fair events or art show events that happens. It is gallery representation only, usually in those cases. And so I am feeling so fortunate to have the opportunity to partner with a specific gallery for that one too. And so more details to be shared for that, but it's all female represented for that specific gallery that I'm partnering with. And it's a dream to have that as an opportunity. There's also one other thing that's coming up, and there is a show that selected one of my pieces, and it's local where I'm from in the Bay Area, and they will let me know soon, but it's also gonna be next year. So I think it goes until January or February timeframe. So it's just those 2 things alone, it's a dream. It's always been something I have on my own vision board of one day have my work in a gallery or a museum and be able to look at my old, younger, we call it childhood self and be like, you did it, look at that. So cool. Because I would say one thing that I love to do for fun growing up was always seeing different art exhibits and museums with my dad. That's our thing. So we'd always go hike stairs in San Francisco and then go to an art museum and then have dim sum. That was just everything throughout my childhood. I always think of that. And he always would say, I think one day you'll have your art here. And it's such an amazing feeling to feel that now as an adult, being able to reflect upon that, because that's cool.
Let me just tell you, you are a natural storyteller, which I think is fantastic. Storytelling is my form, talking about lived experience and how that can help other people who are going through it. But I've always appreciated art as far as like drawing or paintings or even digital art. I went to an art school. That's essentially how my career in marketing and business originated. And I always had an appreciation for people who could really channel that emotion into the work that they were doing. I do that through speaking and writing. That's my medium. But I've always, like I said, had an appreciation for the arts and the painting because going back to that hypnosis part, I've always felt that when I've been at a museum and really looking at an abstract piece that really gets my wheels turning. I always wonder, what was that person going through in this season of life to where they were able to either sculpt this, paint this, or mold this? It's always fascinated me. But going back to the storytelling component, any artist is able to do that because they know how to tell a story. It's just telling the story in a different medium.
I love that. And it totally resonates with me too. I hadn't thought about it that way. To your point, I always thought writing and journaling is more of the storytelling side. And it's true though, with painting, it is a form of expression, but you are feeling that and you are thinking about what their story is or what you're feeling or whatever's coming up for you too.
Absolutely. Well, I want to get the episode up well in advance for the amazing milestones that you have coming up in 2026.
Thank you.
I'm curious, again, going into those exclusive mentions, do you have a theme or is there a dedicated theme that you'll be bringing to the canvas for these shows?
Yes. Oh, I've learned people love the sunsets that I am painting. So the one for LA will specifically be focused on sunsets. And I've been making exclusive pieces for those. I call them like my mini sunset editions. So I'm in the studio most of the next couple of weeks going into the new year to get those ready. And I can't wait because it's perfect. They're 10 by 10 pieces. They're the perfect size for any space. And it's a little bit of California sunshine in its own way that you can have in your space that can ground you and make you feel happy or calm or whatever it is.
It's so beautiful. You know how everyone sets an intention word for the new year? Have you set an intention word that correlates with your work?
I have, yeah, my word is joy. And you might be surprised by that, but I think it's so easy for me to be so focused on goal setting or other things that I really want to focus more on being joyful and embracing when joy happens and celebrating those moments because I tend to be an overachiever. It's really hard for me to be like, in that and let it soak in. But this time, I think embracing joy and smaller moments of joy daily is my goal.
I'm going to share this with you, but I knew you were going to say joy. I thought I'm going to ask if you set an intention for the theme for these shows. And immediately I'm like, I wonder what her intention is. While I'm still listening to you speak, I heard the word joy because joy also illuminates sun, happiness, expression. So when you said joy, I was over here like, I knew it. I knew it because I heard it.
I love our conversation right now. It's amazing.
If you can't tell, I take these conversations where they're meant to go. I won't go too much into this. I've talked about it a little bit, especially before I launched guest spotlights on the show. But I never want the here's the questions I'm going to ask you, think about your perfect answer, and we're going to basically go full structure. I've never wanted that in my conversations because going back to, again, your brilliance and the wisdom that you wanted to share is all about creative expression. And when you put barriers around how you express, especially the story that you're wanting to tell or what's coming through you, you hold it back a little bit. And so I keep these so organic. I let the frequency take us where it's meant to go. And the fact that we even got there to have that little moment where I felt the energy. I felt the energy before I asked the question and before you gave me an answer. That is the priceless things that really manifests and transforms through these conversations. So thank you for sharing that with me.
Yeah, thank you for leading us there too. I feel the same and I love this conversation. So thank you.
Of course. My last question for you to give us some more space. Leading in with that intention, what are some of the other things that you're looking to manifest? I mean, I feel that you're in that frequency of manifesting a lot right now. You are going to have such an incredible start to 2026. And if there is any other goals or milestones that you're looking to achieve, please share those with us so that way either myself, I can pass along opportunities for you, or if anybody's listening and they want to share the love, that's really what I want these conversations to turn into, is to be such incredible conversation pieces to build that community and how we support one another.
Thank you so much. I would say continuing to manifest building community for sure. I would say the community that I've been able to build this year with clean living and meeting you and continue to expand that beyond has led to just the most serendipitous, spontaneous moments in the best way and the best growth for me. So continuing to meet people who are interested in what I'm doing or my creativity and how we can partner together or how I can help them too. That's something I'm really much looking forward to too.
That's amazing. Well, myself and anybody tuning in, if we can support you with anything around community, please reach out. And I hope that, again, this conversation inspires others who might have been on a similar path, taken a pause with their artistry and are waiting for the invitation to follow it. I hope that this conversation inspires those to follow their craft, because if there's one thing that this year has taught us is that yes, we need community, but we need to be living our purpose and living our art and our creative expression the way that the world needs it. We need to be following our hearts and our souls and what we're meant to be doing.
Yes, and it's yours to reclaim too.